She clutched her boarding pass, excitement in her eyes, until the flight attendant's sneer froze her in place. Rip. In one swift motion, the ticket was destroyed, her chance to board stolen. Gasps echoed, but no one stepped in. "You don't belong here," the woman hissed. The girl's heart pounded. Humiliation burned her cheeks. But the flight attendant had no idea who she had just humiliated. No idea that the man about to step forward owned everything around her. When the truth came out, regret wouldn't be enough. Would justice be served, or would power remain in the wrong hands? Tiana had been looking forward to this trip for months. A straight-A student with dreams of becoming a pilot, she had spent years fascinated by the sky, memorizing flight patterns and studying aerodynamics. Today was supposed to be special, her first time flying alone, a step closer to her dream. She clutched her ticket tightly as she stood in line, heart racing with excitement. The airport bustled around her, families reuniting, business travelers tapping away at laptops, children tugging at their parents' hands. Everything felt like a new adventure. Her father, a powerful yet humble man, had told her to enjoy the experience. "You belong anywhere your dreams take you," he had always said, and today she believed him. But as she approached the gate, a cold stare met her warmth. The flight attendant's eyes scanned her, lips pressing into a tight line. Tiana felt the shift, the kind she had seen before, the kind that made her stomach tighten. Something was wrong. She handed over her ticket, expecting the usual nod and polite smile. Instead, the woman's fingers closed around it, knuckles whitening as she stared Tiana down. Then, in one swift motion, rip. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The boarding pass, her chance to fly, was nothing but torn paper now. Tiana's breath caught in her throat. The woman leaned in, voice cold. "You people don't belong in first class." Her hands trembled, anger and humiliation colliding inside her. But what the flight attendant didn't know, what no one in that gate area knew, was that the man who owned this airline was just minutes away, and he was her father. Silence fell over the gate area. Tiana's heart pounded in her chest, her fingers still clenching the torn edges of her ticket. People nearby shifted uncomfortably, some looking away, others pretending they hadn't just witnessed what had happened. The flight attendant stood tall, arms crossed, as if daring her to fight back. "I don't have time for this," she muttered, waving for the next passenger to step forward. Tiana's throat tightened. You can't just do that," she said, her voice shaking but firm. The woman scoffed. "I can and I did. Maybe next time, stick to economy where you belong." A burning humiliation spread through Tiana's chest. She had read about this kind of discrimination in history books, seen it in documentaries. But never in her worst nightmares did she think she'd be standing here, being treated like she was invisible. Tears threatened to form, but she refused to cry. Instead, she scanned the room, searching for someone, anyone, who might step in. But people just averted their eyes, their silence screaming complicity. A businessman in a suit checked his watch and sighed impatiently. A woman holding a toddler glanced at Tiana with pity before quickly looking away. Even the gate agent next to the flight attendant hesitated but said nothing, staring down at the computer screen as if it held the answer to a question she didn't want to ask. Tiana's hands clenched into fists. Do something. Say something. But before she could open her mouth, a sharp voice rang out. "What's going on here?" The flight attendant barely turned her head. "Just handling a boarding issue," she said dismissively. But the voice didn't belong to just anyone. The gate agent's fingers suddenly froze over the keyboard. A murmur rippled through the waiting passengers. And then, a heavy hand landed on the flight attendant's shoulder. Her face paled. Tiana's pulse quickened. Because the man standing behind the flight attendant wasn't just another frustrated passenger. He wasn't an airport manager or a supervisor. He was her father. And he owned this airline. The air in the terminal seemed to shift as his deep voice cut through the tension. Tiana, what happened? The flight attendant's posture stiffened, her confidence cracking like glass. She turned slowly, her mouth opening, but no words came out. The moment her eyes met his, realization struck. The man she had just humiliated his daughter in front of dozens of people, the man whose name was printed on every plane in this fleet, was the last person she should have crossed. But the damage was already done, and now the whole world was about to watch her regret it. The flight attendant's face drained of color as she took a step back. The arrogant smirk she had worn just moments ago was gone, replaced by wide, panicked eyes. Tiana's father, James Carter, wasn't just another passenger. He was the CEO of this airline, the man responsible for every employee's paycheck, including hers. And now he was staring at her with a cold, measured intensity that made the entire gate area go silent. "Did you just tear up my daughter's ticket?" His voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that came before a storm. The flight attendant stammered, her confidence crumbling. I didn't know she was your—" James cut her off with a sharp look. "So, if she weren't my daughter, this would have been okay?" The question hung in the air like a dagger. The surrounding passengers, who had once pretended not to see, now watched with rapt attention. Some even raised their phones, recording the moment, knowing it was about to go viral. The flight attendant opened her mouth and shut it. There was no good answer. Tiana swallowed hard, her hands still shaking. She had never seen her father like this, his usual warmth and patience, replaced by a quiet fury. "This young woman," James continued, gesturing toward Tiana, "had a first-class ticket. She was supposed to be treated with the same respect as any other passenger." His gaze sharpened. "Tell me, what reason did you have to deny her that?" The woman's lip quivered. It was a misunderstanding." James took a step forward, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Number. It was a choice." The weight of his words pressed down on her. She knew she was finished. All around them, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Tiana's heartbeat thundered in her ears. And then James turned to the gate agent. "Print my daughter a new ticket, now." The gate agent scrambled to comply. The flight attendant stood frozen, knowing there was no undoing what she had done. But the worst was yet to come, because this moment, the humiliation, the consequences, was about to be seen by millions. Tiana clutched her new boarding pass, but the victory felt hollow. The humiliation, the sting of being judged before she even spoke. It wasn't something a reprinted ticket could erase. She followed her father onto the plane, feeling the weight of every stare, every whispered conversation. The flight attendant had been removed from the gate, her face pale as security escorted her away. But was that really justice, or just damage control? As Tiana settled into her seat, her father exhaled, rubbing his temples. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," he said, his voice softer now. "No one should." She nodded, but deep down she knew this wasn't just about her. This was about every Black traveler who had ever been treated like they didn't belong. About the thousands of silent injustices that never made headlines. By the time they landed, the video had already spread like wildfire. Millions had watched. News outlets picked up the story. The airline was forced to issue a public apology. But was an apology enough? Because the truth was, if her father hadn't been who he was, would anyone have believed her? Would she have even made it onto that plane? Enjoyed this story? Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales. Let's spread the message of hope and unity together. Thanks and take care.